grounding your plate. Because I want you to understand, this is, when I say, did you ground your plate, this is what I mean. I'm going to show you how to ground your plate. A ground is a term used in the visual arts. It's unique to painting, drawing, sculpture, printmaking, especially etching. A ground is a technical term in the visual arts for covering something completely. You can ground a painting. Painters call it, I put a figure on the ground. You've heard this figure ground term. Another thing, a ground is when you put on gesso, you ground your whole canvas. That's a form of a ground. So it's a term that references covering the whole surface of something. Okay, so it's a ground. In our case, we're putting on an acid-resistant ground. So you need a hot plate to do this. The hot plate needs to be turned all the way up. How you turn the hot plate on, my friends, is there's a little lever here. A light comes on. You don't need to do anything except for turn the lever on. Don't turn the dial. Don't do anything else because you'll just mess it up for the next person. Unfortunately, there's no way to measure this hot plate by numbers. You have to do it by feel. That's why you need to touch it. I turned it on right before I showed you how to back the plate. It took that long for it to get this hot. Now that it's this hot, I'm going to turn it off temporarily. You put your plate on a piece of paper. You can get a piece of paper from that roll right there. Doesn't need to be bigger than this. Couple reasons why you want paper. You protect the hot plate from the messy business that you're about to do, and you don't have to touch the hot copper when you're done. Pretty cool, huh? So the paper protects the I know it looks dirty, but it's actually relatively clean. And then you can actually lift it off when you're done. You want to wait till the copper warms up. Copper is a great conductor of heat. So it's going to warm up and allow you to put the ground up. What I'm about to do is very simple, but you have to pay attention because you've never done it before and it has a certain quality. There's a feel to what I'm about to do. There's a seeing and then there's a feeling. And I can't necessarily describe to you the seeing and the feeling because that's weird, right? Like, how do you know how to catch a ball? Can you describe that to somebody? If I threw a ball, you catch it. It's both seeing and feeling, right? Like, there's a sense of spatial thing going on. So that's what ground is. So this is called ball ground. I want you to pass it around. That's what we're on. It's called ball ground. Can you guess why? It's the shape of a ball. It's a half of a ball. And this ball is a fantastic, oh my gosh, this is the most fantastic substance in the world. It's called ball ground. It's made by a French company called Charbonnel. And it's like been fine-tuned over hundreds of years. Doesn't look like it, but this is an amazing tool, an amazing substance. I am going to show you an American-made version that is probably the worst thing you've ever used in your whole entire life. I'm going to ask you to use both, and you'll show me why. You'll tell me why. This is easy to use. It's an acid-resistant substance that we call ball ground. So this ball ground is actually acid-resistant. If we threw this in the acid, nothing would happen to it. Notice that we also call it hard ground. Notice that it's hard. Like if I threw this at you, it would hurt. Like it's hard ground. Implying what? If you have hard ground, what do you think you also have? So we're not using soft ground, we're using hard ground. Because there are things called soft ground. Just a little foreshadowing for things to come, if you like such things. So this is hard ground. It's called ball ground, but this is technically ball ground that's hard. It's hard ball ground. It's not soft ball ground. It's hard ball ground. And I know that seems confusing now, but it's really important. Hard ground is the substance that we're going to put on your plate. We need heat to get it on your plate. There's no other way. How would you get this on your plate? Well, the French developed this amazing thing called ball ground, and if you heat it up to the right temperature, it melts perfectly and goes on your plate perfectly smooth if you do it right. And then, when it's hot, it's soft, but then when you take the plate off the hot plate, it gets hard again. Pretty amazing. This is better than your iPhone. It's so fine-tuned. Your iPhone can't melt and then go back to the state that it was in. Think about it. Awesome. All right, so this should be hot enough. You need a brayer. We have a few brayers kicking around here. You need a clean brayer. I'm going to teach you how to clean this off. But if you do this right, the brayer won't get too dirty. So you guys all need to come in close and see this. And we're filming it so that you can see it. So Samara, if you want to come in here a little closer, you can. So can you see my hands? Because it's kind of important. So this, you take the ball ground. Take the ball ground.
Stand over here.
So let's see what's happening here, guys. I'm going to use a little bit bigger piece. You see what's happening? I'm melting, the ball ground's melting. And you only need to like kind of twist it. How much would you say that is? How much ball ground did I just put on there? Enough. I mean, you could count it. You could say how many circles, right, did I put down? 1, 2, maybe 6. That one's a little overkill, right? How many circles of twists did I put on? Maybe it's 8. So that's, you want it to look like that when you put it on. You don't need more than this. This might be too much. We'll find out. You need a brayer. This is called a brayer. Anybody taken a relief printmaking or used one of these in their lives before? This is called a brayer. It's a technical name for roller with a handle. The correct term is brayer. Because the other thing that the side benefits of this is that you will be able to use this at any etching shop. You will know what you're doing in any etching shop in the world if you pay attention and you use the right terms. You could go to Paris and be like, "Where's the brayers?" They'd be like, "Over there." "Where's the ball ground?" "Over there." How do you all back your plates? You could ask them, "How do you back your plates?" And they'd be like, "Oh, well, we use asphaltum or we use X." And you'd be like, "Oh, that's interesting." So now I'm going to come in with a brayer, and I'm going to roll out from different angles. Can you guys see this? I'm going to roll out from different angles until this is perfectly flat and there's no dings in it. There's no. We should get a light over here. Bree, remind me to talk. We need to talk to Michelle about getting like a clip-on light that like plugs in right here. So look at this. You don't need to overdo it. You can check it by getting at different angles. There's a little bit of heaviness in the corners. Not that big of a deal. If you don't put it on flat, your drawing won't turn out right. If it's uneven, you'll have ground thick on one end and thin on the other. What do you think is going to happen when you go to draw through it? I know you don't have drawn through it yet, but just you can imagine. If one side's thicker than the other, what's going to happen in the acid even? You're going to have an unequal something going on, right? Imbalance. So it needs to be perfectly level. You grab the corners like this. And you guys all come up here close and look at it. And see if I could probably roll it out a little bit more, but that's pretty decent. Do you see how perfectly flat it is? See that it's translucent? Do you see the color? What color is that now?
Gold.
Golden. What color is the ball that I passed around? Black. What don't you want to see on your plate?
Black.
You don't want black on your plate, you want golden. So sometimes people get a little aggressive and they put too much on. And then if you get too aggressive and put too much on, the only thing that you're really doing is causing yourself a little bit more work. And you'll have to clean up more. You just create more work for yourself when you put too much ground on. You can set it over here. When you're done, you can put the brayer back up here. Oh, look, I got phone book. If you have any phone books, I found one in my house. I'll bring it in. You set it over here until it cools. How do you know it's cool?
Touch it.
Touch it. Don't touch the top of it because it's still hot. Don't touch the top of it because it's soft. What will happen? Your fingerprint will go in it. And then what will happen when you put it in the acid? Your fingerprint will get etched into the plate forever and ever and ever. And then you can't take it back. And so you're like, I have this amazing fingerprint in my drawing. Now, if you're Chuck Close, you say, hey, that's a way to draw. Fingerprint drawings, right? Like you could etch your fingerprint in different depths and you're going to get different values and boom, you get a fingerprint drawing. But we're not doing that right now. You can do that later. That's better suited to guess what ground is better suited to that? Soft ground. Because hard ground is only soft when it's warm. A way to cool your plate off the fastest is to put it on a press bed or put it on the floor, right? Or just walk away and get coffee and come back and it'll be cool. But it is hot right now. You don't want to touch it. You want to wait till it's cool. What I do is I put it down and I touch the back of it. It's still pretty hot. Still pretty warm. Feel the bottom too. Feel that? You don't want to touch the top. It's hot now. It still stays hot for a while. So we just use heat to use ball ground. Here, you guys touch it. It's too hot to handle, really. You want to let it cool off.
He's holding.
I got it. I'm used to it. All right, so the fastest way to cool it off, put it on the ground, let it cool, or put it on the steel press bed. But the problem is, you don't want to put it on the plastic press bed because it'll melt it. I would just take this over to my workstation, set it down, and do something else while it cools off. If we put it on the floor, the reason why I want it to cool off here while we're still here is I want to show you something pretty fantastic about this is why etching is probably the best medium on the planet and why it's the most Christian medium as well. It's forgiving. It's forgiving. I'm going to show you how it's forgiving. Bree, can you go grab an etching needle from the kit for me? So I'm letting it cool. The reason why I let it cool is that I want to put it back. I want to let it cool, have you all touch it, and then I'm going to draw in it briefly to show you. I'm going to show you more sophisticated straws, but I'm going to draw in it and show you what happens if I don't like what I draw. Because the thing about etching is that whatever you draw on it through this ground, nothing has happened yet. If you put it in the acid, something happens, but before you put it in the acid, nothing's happened, so you can always reground it. So you have a little bit of forgiveness. It's not quite Command Z, right? But it's kind of close. There's a point of no return, but just let it cool. So put it on a kind of a cool surface like the floor or a piece of steel. That little small press right there, that proofing press, see that big hunk of steel right there? You could set it on that press bed, that would cool it off quickly. So it takes a while for it to cool off. So once again, because we're demonstrating this, it takes longer than it does in real time, right, for you to do it. Like I'm showing you slowly how to do it. Let's see, it's getting there. Once it's cool, it goes back to being hard ground. That's pretty cool. It becomes really useful because then you can touch it and nothing bad will happen unless you like scratch it on the ground, right? Like you can touch it just like that hard ground. It's hard to ruin this thing. The French did an amazing thing. This is amazing. I hope they don't go out of business. I actually went to go buy some more ball ground and they're like, oh, we're having hard times getting things from Charbonnel. It's like, oh no, I'll buy all of it, whatever you got, right? Like, so if somebody is going to France, they can pick some up. It's getting there. They pass that around and just kind of gently touch it. Everybody touch it. It's going to go back to this state. And this is really important to know. It starts off hard. You heat it up, it gets soft. This is a fine-tuned piece of stuff. Like, can you make this? Could you make something that is perfectly acid resistant, that when you melt it, it goes on your plate perfect? Like you saw how perfect that went on. And then goes back to this state when you're done. Could you make this? How long would it take you to make this? 150 years probably. Because you need to know everything that's in here. So the question is, what's in here, do you think? What is this made out of, this ball ground? Yes. There's some wax. There's some resin. There's some asphaltum, which is in this can right here. It's a secret recipe that only Charbonnel Ink Company has because nobody else can make it. And they also care about the quality. The French care about quality of things. And you see it in the food that they make, but also in the materials they make for ancient printmaking techniques. So this comes from France. They make it here in America, but they're really sloppy and they're quick and impatient and they don't do it this way. So you can get this stuff. And so use it judiciously. Don't use it willy-nilly, okay guys? Like make sure you take care of it. I only have what we have. If you use all this up, I'm gonna make you use the stuff that you won't like. So I'll get you addicted, just like crack or something, and then take it away from you and make you use this stuff. You notice, I've had this for 14 years. No one ever uses it. They try and they give up. It doesn't work as well. So this is American versions of ball ground, but they made it into, they got lazy and used ice cube trays. That's why they're in shape of ice cubes. Like how cheap is that? Cube ground. Yeah. All right, did you guys all, is the plate going around? You guys all feel it? Bring it over here. All right. Just to recap, you have to turn the hot plate on as soon as you come in the room if it hasn't been turned on. It takes about 10 minutes to warm up. You need to wait till it's the temperature that I had you touch it. Right? If it's not that temperature, turn it back on. it needs to be hot to the touch. Like you can barely touch it with your hand, you gotta remove your hand. That's when you know it's ready to put ball ground on. It will not melt at a lower temperature. Did you guys feel that? Isn't that cool? So, we're gonna talk about drawing later, but I'm just gonna draw on this quickly. So what I've just done is I've heated up the ball ground, hard ball ground. I've heated it up, I've rolled it out perfectly smooth, now it's cool. Now I can touch it. Nothing bad is gonna happen now that I'm touching it. Unless I'm really aggressive and I dig my fingernails into it. So if I draw into it now, you can see it in different lights better. You guys see it showing up? Mm-hmm. What I'm doing is I'm scratching the ball ground off. That's what this etching needle is for. I'm scratching the image off. And what I'm doing is I'm scratching down to the copper, or what we call exposing the copper. Can you kind of see it? Mm-hmm. You can see it in there. I'm exposing the copper so that when I put it in the acid will only bite where I draw. Notice I just used a new term, bite. When you put a plate in the acid, we call that the acid will bite your plate. Question?
Are we needing to put the ball ground on the bevel edges?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just the face.
A little bit will get on there, and you can always scrape and burnish it to get it back to smooth. But yeah, it does affect it. You could put a little on there if you wanted.
Okay.
It's not necessary. Because the acid will bite it kind of evenly, and you won't even notice that it's done it. So I've just, but what if, oh, somebody just bumped me tonight. I made a drawing, right? Guess what? That didn't happen. It's not that big of a deal. I can put it back on the hot plate, and I can roll out the ground and start over. So this is your one, if you don't like your drawing, you could always redraw it to the taste. Now, there are ways to do it more kind of spot oriented, but in this case, all you do is warm up your plate again, and you'd roll it down flat. Roll it back to where you started. So this is your undo button. If you draw something you don't like, or something happens you don't like, right, this is one way to take care of that problem. Because nothing has happened. Until I put it in the acid, absolutely nothing has happened to the plate. Does that make sense? Absolutely nothing has been done to your plate. It feels like there has been because you've drawn on it, but until you put it in the acid, technically nothing has happened. So I can come in. It's not warmed up yet. You gotta wanna wait for the copper to warm up. I can tell that because the ground started sticking in a weird way. Sometimes even the roller has to heat up. See this? There is ground on these rollers, so sometimes what will happen is if somebody's a little heavy-handed, we don't know who that will be. That'll be somebody. They'll get a lot of ground on the roller, and you won't even need to use the ball ground because it's all on the roller. Does that make sense? So notice I'm getting a little more ground off this roller this time. Needs to heat up, so it's not going back to its same state it was before because of the sprayer, and it's not quite hot enough yet. A little bit more is not that big of a deal. If it's this, notice that it's a little bit less than amber, it's a little more dark. You guys see that? That's all right. Just want it to be flat. Probably need to turn it back on too. So it needs to be nice and toasty. Unfortunately, hot plates are not reliable in terms of numbers. You can't assign a number, say turn it to 250 and then you'll be perfect. Hot plates, it's weird, it's like they don't have a way of, I don't know if it's because of the electrical elements, but they just get hot and then just start to get hotter. So you can get it too hot, but it's hard to, but you'll notice when you go to put it on. You also, this is one of those things you haven't done yet, so cut yourself some slack. One of the things that I'm doing is I'm moving the brayer and letting it go off the thing. What I'm not doing is going back and forth, back and forth. I'm literally rolling it and lifting it off. This is important because you can get what's called a lap mark, which looks like this. Like, well, it doesn't have enough ground on it, but what happens is the roller starts here, goes all the way around, stops there, and then starts again, and you get a mark where that starts up again. So you want to roll it out flat. I might throw that one away, but then we'll cool it off. Oh, whoops, I got a goober on it. We'll try to get a light over here for you guys so you can see better, but it looks like I got a kind of a goober. You just want to roll that out. You don't want to have any streaks or overlaps because that'll affect the quality of your drawing. It doesn't ruin the plate, it'll make your drawing inconsistent. You'll see why here in a minute. So that is grounding your plate. We put hard ball ground on this plate using heat and a brayer. You notice how I was kind of fussy? I made sure that it's nice and flat. See how it's flat? There's no lap marks, there's no major streaks. It's mostly flat. That's the only way to describe it. Even, maybe? Flat and even. Consistent. You want to be patient with yourself. You've never done this before. It may or may not work the first time. There's other ways to put ground on your plate, and we'll be talking about that later, but this is the traditional way of putting a ground on your plate. And it's the most amazing surface to draw on that you've ever drawn on your whole entire life. Because you're drawing on metal, not paper, not canvas, not the ground. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a drawing on a piece of metal, and it's pretty satisfying, actually. All right. Any questions?